My name is Catherine.
My name is Deborah.
And my name is Lauren.
And welcome to our 2030th episode of All About the Orgs. Woo! Tonight we have 3 special guests coming in for some interviews. So let's go ahead and hop right into our first one, a past employee from Xerox.
I know, I just cannot wait to meet her.
Let's go grab her.
Welcome in. We are so glad to have you today.
I know, thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, absolutely. Well, if you're ready, we're going to get straight into some questions.
Okay, that's fine. I will be having my laptop today because it's been years since I worked there.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, that is totally okay with us. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Our first question for you today is, tell us a little bit about Xerox, the past company you worked for.
I remember it so much. So Xerox actually took on the imaginations of earlier computer scientists and others who wanted a modern computer that could store data, keep books on files, balance checkbooks and more. And successfully, Xerox created the first user-friendly computer, the Alto. And the Palo Alto Research Center, or PARC, was created by Xerox and is a branch of it.
Well, it's very interesting. Was there anywhere that Xerox took inspiration from?
Yeah, so our great group was deeply inspired by Vannevar Bush, World War II coordinator for state-funded scientific research. He proposed the MEMIX, which was like a computer desk-like tool that could store books, records, and communications. The MEMIX was developed by Bush, then was taken up by naval radar technician Douglas Engelbert. Although Engelbert was unsuccessful for reasons such as Gleason had given employees who left his lab and found him difficult to work with, he was nonetheless commendable because he was able to secure a grant from NASA, and he developed the first mouse and Windows. And Xerox was really influenced and pushed on the work of these two.
I gotta tell y'all, this work is amazing, but half of it is going right over my head, and that includes great groups. Can you tell me more about what a great group is?
Yes, I can. So in simplest terms, I would describe a great group as a collection of people who work together to achieve a common goal. In our case, wanting to advance cutting-edge technology led us to becoming a great group. And great groups, they also begin with great networks, and there is no really hierarchies to it. We're just all kind of on the same playing field.
Within your groups, how would you describe the people at Xerox PARC?
Such funny times. So I remember one of my coworkers, Alan Kay, was amongst the first to join PARC. He was brilliant and a wizard of all things computer, and like myself, he wanted to advance the computer. However, the backbone of the organization was Bob Taylor. He truly was what drove Xerox to success. He only hired the best, and he was a connoisseur of talent. Because of people like him, being accepted and hired was something of great honor.
Oh, wow. So a little spin-off of that is, how would you describe the culture of this company?
Okay, it was different. Okay, but Taylor really wanted our creativity to take charge. We believed that sharing information was essential to a great group. Furthermore, the scrutiny of our peers was very important. We were able to do so through mandatory weekly meetings. We all valued learning from each other.
How was this culture different from others?
Yes, so unlike other organizations where communication by employees is not prioritized, at Xerox, communication was highly important. Like I touched on in the previous question, meetings were mandatory. Taylor was not a big fan of rules. However, the one rule was to attend these meetings. We would all sit on these beanbag chairs, and we will learn how to build on our own research from bits and pieces shared by the accomplishments for others. And the meetings were brief, and they allowed for all of us to bring disagreements to the surface and really made sure we had the right tools.
I cannot imagine those beanbag chairs would be good for my back. What set Xerox culture apart from others?
A lot actually. I remember before PARC was created, Xerox paid over 90 million installed to scientific data systems could produce a computer called the Sigma. I remember we all assumed that the Sigma would be used for our research. We didn't want that because it was inferior, outmoded. So we all collectively argued that it would set our work back several years. In fact, one of our great team members, I love him so much, George Pake, threatened to quit, and the issue was resolved. And this truly showed the loyalty among members.
Why is Bob Taylor commended so much at the organization?
Yeah, so Taylor is a favorite at Park for many reasons. He showed fearlessness when it came to standing up for his team, and as many would say, he put his body between Xerox and us. Also had a religious zeal. Many would recognize him as a maestro at Park Success. Although he couldn't do computer science himself, we called it Taylor's lab. All in all, he created the ideal environment for great computer research.
Wow, he sounds truly amazing. So, how would you describe your time at Park?
So, with the leadership of Bob Taylor, I would describe it as the greatest time of my life. As one of my group members would say, it was the most fun I ever had.
Even with all that fun, looking back now, are there any regrets for Park?
Yes, every great thing always has its faults. Although we had great leadership, ultimately Xerox Park failed. I really wish that we would have pushed the Alto commercially. There was a lack of vision with this. Furthermore, outsiders often felt that we were an elite team and that we were arrogant. Xerox officials felt that some members were rude to them. One even recalled sitting on one of our beloved beanbag chairs, and they couldn't get anything out of us. I felt that in a way we failed to remember and understand that we were supposed to be the group that helped the less fortunate and less intelligent rest of the world.
Wow, that is so interesting. So I know that y'all might have had some beef, per se, with some other companies. How did Apple specifically contribute to the failure of Xerox?
Oh, so many ways. So Apple utilized the holes in Park to create their own success. They were able to do so because, regretfully and foolishly, Xerox many managers allowed Steve Jobs and several other members of the staff to come into our space to analyze Park's technology in exchange for a good price of Apple stock. Because of this, 6 years later, Jobs got a jump start on the Macintosh. The Apple team truly saw it all. From how we created our pop-up windows to the mouse, he also asked plenty of questions of high intelligence. Even Jobs himself was surprised that we were not pushing our products commercially. I remember hearing from someone who gave him the tour say that Jobs said that, this is the greatest thing. Why aren't you doing anything with this? Apple then had everything to create their own devices. However, by the time we realized our own true potential, it was already too late. Apple ran with our ideas to start their own revolution without us. I remember reading Wired magazine where Jobs stated that in his visit in 1979, I know a long time, within 10 minutes, it was obvious that every computer in the world would one day work this way someday. And we really shot ourselves in the foot. Jobs saw our ideas and ran with it. We simply showed him too much.
Wow, honestly, I'm truly heartbroken for y'all. That is such a sad story, but at least you guys can still have pride in the fact that our technology today and how we function as a community was entirely dependent on your work in 1979 and beyond.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure having you in on our episode today. That was absolutely enlightening. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Anytime.
So we just heard an enlightening story about Xerox, and now we're gonna head over to Black Mountain, and we actually have a student here today for an interview. All right, come on out.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here with y'all today.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. Have you been on this show before at all?
No, I don't. This is my first time. I'm so excited to be here.
We're very familiar, but we're so happy to have you.
So I just have one of those faces.
Very interesting.
So we're gonna go right in about Black Mountain and your experience there.
Well, I would love to talk about it, so let's get right into it.
So how would you describe the learning environment of Black Mountain?
It was incredibly untraditional and unconventional. They broke out academic boundaries that had been set for hundreds of years in the past. Many of our classes were focused on the arts, personal growth, and experimental and radical ideas. You know, we were often known as a school of rebels. So an interesting environment to learn.
Okay, so what kind of classes do you take at Black Mountain?
Black Mountain refrained from offering traditional degree paths. Our programs were very flexible, I would say. We're encouraged to take classes in multiple disciplines and in multiple areas. And towards the end of our education, we had the ability to pick a special niche, and this often combined with our independent studies. We had classes offered on a range of subjects, including dance, one of my favorites, physics, one of my least favorites, and creative writing.
I hate physics too.
I also hate physics.
I'm glad we can all agree on that.
It was very interesting. How would you say the environment at Black Mountain is known for being cut off from the rest of the society, or the parts that you purposely did not want to interact with? How did this impact your group identity?
Well, we were a little ways away from Asheville, which was already a small town, and most of the people in our surrounding area were either moonshiners or avid churchgoers, which is just not my personal group I like to hang out with. But they didn't really like us either. We were all treated as hippies, and they avoided us at all costs. I used to wear sandals to the grocery store, and for reasons like this, we developed quite the reputation in the mountains. This kind of left us on our own in our own area. We were already so focused on our bubble within Black Mountain that being considered outsiders only furthered our sense of community. And I really want to hit on this idea that we weren't just a school, but we were a family, instructors, educators, and students.
So next, what was the relationship between student and faculty like?
Our relationship was familial, as I mentioned before. We lived with our educators, we ate with our educators. Oftentimes, people always say that we had as much education over a cup of coffee that we did in the classroom. All of our energy was focused on and within Black Mountain.
What are some notable experiences you had at Black Mountain and you think had an impact on your overall career and lifestyle outcome?
One of my most notable experiences was actually a class. It was Martha Graham's dance workshops, which integrated visual arts with performance, which were neither really one of my strengths, but took me outside of my comfort zone. And in terms of my career, every moment at Black Mountain built who I am today, and my peers would say the exact same thing.
Your thinking and collaborative intelligence are huge pieces of the ethos of Black Mountain. Could you describe these and their impact on your education?
Yeah, of course. The faculty at Black Mountain valued the collaborative exchange of ideas among students and themselves. Our college's small size allowed for close personal relationships between teachers and students, which fostered a rich, supportive learning environment and honestly bonded us in a way that could never be taken away or replicated.
Black Mountain was really unique, I will say.
It was something.
Why do you think that many revere this institute as like a sort of revolutionary school?
You know, during the time period that I was there, it wasn't seen as revolutionary. The faculty and students alike, we were all crazy, liberal, rebellious. But when students began turning into these amazing intellectuals of our time period, we began to gain a lot more respect. Although it is unfortunate this was all retrospective, I really would have liked being called revolutionary as a student.
How would you describe the faculty, as rebellious or just open-minded?
It was definitely a mix. I think what led our instructors was oftentimes their rebellious mindset, but as our coursework and instruction grew, it turned more open-minded, and I think that collaborative learning between the faculty and the students led it in a different direction than just rebellion and just rejection of the status quo and what we knew. But those were definitely crucial values in our courses, innovative and creativity and reject or rethink what we once knew.
That's very interesting. The Black Mountain experiment created and developed a paradigm for many current liberal art institutions. During your time, could you imagine or see the impact it was going to have on educational institutions?
This is definitely exposing our narcissism a little bit, but we always knew what we were doing was special and different and would eventually change the overall education system. Our school wasn't even accredited yet, but but myself and many of my peers were accepted to Ivy League institutions or became some of the most influential intellectuals of our time period. It was obvious that we were breaking down barriers to traditional education that stifled the creative mind. That's why it doesn't surprise me that many liberal arts colleges today have taken on some inspiration, at least from Black Mountain.
So I have to wonder, did you ever graduate from Black Mountain? Why or why not?
Ooh, I would have to say this is probably one of my biggest regrets, but I never graduated from Black Mountain. Throughout my time there was less of a focus on getting to that final graduation date, and education was viewed as a more continuous process with no necessary start or end. That said, I think I avoided the graduation process just a little bit. It was extremely difficult. As a student, you decided when you felt prepared to graduate, and then you were tested in front of any faculty and other students who chose to be there orally, which definitely led me to not acquire my degree from there. I was a little nervous.
The graduation process seems rough. I will say, I've heard another part of the curriculum. I heard that the curriculum included chores. Is that true?
It is true. It is true. And honestly, that is one piece of the curriculum that I loved. So chores were required for every student. This once again contributed to our feeling of like a hideaway community of rebels. We were all responsible for what was happening in our community. And it honestly made me laugh too when I saw my instructors like having to take out the trash. It was hilarious. But this kind of helped us develop the strong sense of pride that we had in our school. And upkeep was a component of that pride.
That was very interesting. Thank you for coming.
All right, I know we just heard from a student from Black Mountain, but our viewers and honestly ourselves are a little more interested in what that experience was like, especially from the perspective of a faculty member. So we would like to welcome in an ex-faculty member from Black Mountain.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, and I have to say, your hair looks great. Did you do something different since the last time I saw you?
Oh, I haven't done anything actually, but thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, so to begin, to hop right into it, how would you describe the atmosphere of Black Mountain?
Oh, it was really different from a lot of the other institutions that were going on during the time, and honestly, even now. It was really like an incredibly tight-knit community, and it celebrated creativity and the arts, and it would challenge norms, and it would be a community for personal growth. And it was really a place where I, as a faculty member, would always question my past experiences, the rules, the authority there, and it was a place to just be so rebellious and challenge authority. And it was also sort of isolated from the rest of the world, but it also made the people at Black Mountain so much closer in community. Students say like all the time about how Black Mountain, even after they graduated, how it's been a part of their lives. And it's just a place where creativity and the arts were wholeheartedly encouraged and flourished.
Oh, that sounds truly amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and from the perspective of the student that we just heard from, completely in alignment with each other. So I'm really interested in what initially drew you to Black Mountain.
It initially drew me in because it was so unique. It had such a free curriculum, and it inspired creativity in a way that other institutions didn't really do. And so by seeing that, I immediately tried to apply for a position as a faculty member, as professor. And once I got in, I just completely fell in love with the environment and the teaching styles of all the other professors there. As a faculty member, I felt like I really had an opportunity to make a genuine difference in other students' lives. And I thought that teaching at Black Mountain truly gave me the opportunity to connect with students that wouldn't have been possible at a normal institution.
Hey, so what kind of courses did professors teach? How do they teach them?
So the greatest thing about Black Mountain, I would say, is that students kind of taught the professors too. They taught us how to be good people and how to be creative and how to engage students. And so I found that really rejuvenating. And I personally taught a course about art and the experiences of painting, which was different than other institutions, which would just teach like the actual like how to paint and stuff like that. And my colleagues also taught unique courses, and I remember several hands-on projects they would give. And I remember one of my students coming up to me to talk about Professor Albert's class, and they came up to me so excitedly about how his class just opened up their eyes. So I thought that was so interesting. And I think overall, all the professors at Black Mountain were just as ecstatic to teach as the students were to learn.
That is so amazing. Honestly, something that is missing from colleges today. I feel like a lot of the teachers don't necessarily enjoy their subject they're teaching or can't teach it to the fullest extent that they would like it to. So, kind of off of that, you already answered it a little bit in your past question, but I would love to hear how you think Black Mountain is different from a traditional school.
Well, obviously our teaching styles, I would say, were very different, but also in how the institution was ran. There was, to start off, no really clear hierarchical positions. There was no really, like, president. Then also, although there were leaders such as Rice and Albers and also Olson who definitely shaped the Black Mountain community. Another thing was the super close connection we had with students. This is different from a normal institution, but the students and the faculty would all sleep together and eat together in the same building. And we always felt a super close connection to everyone who attended Black Mountain in a way that wouldn't have been possible at a traditional school. And this connection, I feel, made a really large impact on how students connected with the faculty.
So you mentioned leaders, one of them being Rice. So would you mind describing Rice's influence on the leadership of Black Mountain?
So Rice was an incredible character, I would say. He was essential to creating Black Mountain, and he was really influential in how the school was run. His rebelliousness and creativity gave the school its uniqueness and sense of community. But he was also very opinionated and often forceful about his beliefs. My colleague, Professor Kickerbocker, he was especially outspoken about his negative opinions towards Rice. I remember him telling me that, quote, he was saying something like how Rice was a really destructive presence in the community. And I sort of agree to that statement. He was very honest to others, and whenever he tried to convince people, he would try and use his charisma instead of actual logic or persuasion. And his candor, like, he was super honest. It caused a lot of people, students and faculty, to kind of dislike him. And Kickerbocker would say that his impolitic candor would destroy his students' personal growth. He was, in general, a leader with an incredible vision, and Black Mountain could not have formed without it. However, he was also a leader who was kind of narcissistic and a bit cruel.
Just him living for this genre too. Ooh, especially since I'm not a part of it, and I just get to hear about it. So going into a little more drama that I would love to hear about, what's your personal opinion on why Black Mountain closed?
So, as I said before, Kickerbocker had a few opinions about how Rice led Black Mountain and his personality. So after he was a bit outspoken about his negative opinions, he eventually left Black Mountain, and when Kickerbocker left Black Mountain, about a third of the faculty followed him out. And so I think that was kind of when the decay of Black Mountain started. I think after Kickerbocker left, Rice's aggressive personality kind of became more well known, and I don't think his reputation ever recovered after that. And after that, there was another leader, I'm messing up the timeline, but after that, Rice left the institution, which also decreased, like, sort of the culture of Black Mountain, especially since he created much of it. And Olson was the next sort of leader for Black Mountain, and although he was a very talented individual, by that time, Black Mountain's student population had really decreased, and I think it was just a matter of time before the institution closed. Yep. Yeah.
Well, I wish it was still open. I want to go there.
Yeah. I'm sure you especially would be a really good student there.
I'm glad you think so. Glad you think so. Well, again, we really enjoyed having you as a special guest on our show today.
Somewhat.
It was amazing, and you answered our questions wonderfully. So thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you so much for watching All About the Orgs, episode 2030.
Join us next time for episode 2031 to learn all about how organizations are causing penguins to die.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode.
We hope to see y'all soon.
Have a nice night.